Hi, welcome to Darling's Feast channel. My name is X-Coco, and I'm delighted to bring to you more ratio, what we call stoichiometry. Please tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe and share so that you can get more videos from our end. Now let's start. So for you to be able to work on more ratio, these are formulas that we have to look at. So the first one here is N is equal to mass over molar mass. Now let's look at the second one. We have N to be equal to V over Vm. The third one is N equals C times V. So bear in mind that these are the formulas that we'll be playing with concerning the mole ratio. We have another formula here, which is the percentage purity, which is equal to mass of pure over mass of impure times 100. When we get there, you'll be using this formula. Now let's start with this simple ABCD. Now looking at what we have here, we have A plus 2B giving us 3C plus 5D. The numbers in front is what we call the coefficient. So over here, there is no number here. So that is 1. This side will give us 2. We have 3 here and 5 there. Now let's look at what is happening. So 1, 2, 3 here, then we have 5. These are what we call the coefficients. Now let us look at some few mole ratio equations. So the first one, we have to write between A and B. So let's look at how we can write the mole ratio. So we are going to use N of A, which means that the mole of A all over the mole of B. Considering the mole ratio or the coefficients here, we equate that to 1 is to 2. That is 1 coming from A, then we have B giving us 2. So N of A over N of B is equal to 1 over 2. Now let's pick between B and C. So we are going to write the mole ratio for B and C, considering their coefficient, which is 2 and 3. Let's go. So we have N of B over N of C, and the ratio is equal to 2 over 3. You can also decide to write in this format: N of C over N of B is equal to 3 over 2. So when you use N of C, then it becomes 3 over 2. Now let's move back to this one. If you want to write in this format, that is N of B first over N of A, that will give us 2 is to 1. It is also accepted. Now let's look at the third one, which is for B and D. So we have 2 moles of B and 5 moles of D. So the mole ratio here will be N of B over N of D is equal to 2 over 5. And that is what we call the mole ratio. But bear in mind, these are the formulas that we are going to use during our calculations. So we have N equals mass over molar mass, N equals V over Vm, and N equals C times V. Now let me give you this breakdown. Let's assume that the question is talking about mass for A. It simply tells you that the formula mass over molar mass will replace A. Take note of that. If B, the question talks about mass, then the same formula here, which is mass over molar mass, will take place of B. Now let's move to this second one. Let's consider the C times V here. If B is talking about concentration, then on top here, the formula to be used is C times V. What about if the question says calculate the amount? Please take note of this. If the question says calculate the amount, then no formula will be used. So you are just going to calculate for whatever you have over here. Okay, let's move to this side. We want to combine any of the formulas here. So n of b over n of d is equal to 2 over 5. Now let's assume that the question is talking about molar volume, which is for this formula, or the question is talking about volume at STP. Then in place of this n over b, or n to bracket b, we are going to have v over vm. Now let's move to d. Assuming the question says calculate the concentration, what do we do? It simply means that down here we are going to use C times V. Please take note of that. Now let's pick another format. Let's assume that the question says calculate the amount of B. It means that we need that of B. No formula will be applied over here. Down here, the question gives you mass. That tells you that you'll be using this formula, which is mass over molar mass. So when a question talks about mass, you are going to use this formula. When a question talks about molar volume or volume at STP, then you use this one. If the question talks about concentration, depending on the nature of the question, you use C times V. So this is just an overview of what we are going to do. All right. So now let's take one question, then apply what we have gone through so far. So the question reads, the reaction between hydrazine, which is N2H4, and hydrogen peroxide, which is H2O2, is given below. Please take note, in most cases, you are given the equation and the balance form. Sometimes you will not be given the complete equation, so you just have to write your own balanced equation. So we have Vm to be equal to 22.4, H1O equals 16, N equals 14. So we'll be depending on this question to solve whatever the question will ask us to do. Please write this formula, this equation down, which is N2H4 plus 2 moles of hydrogen peroxide producing N2 plus 4H2O. This is what we are going to use. Now let's start with the first question. The question reads, how many moles of N2H4 are required to react with 8 moles of H2O2? Now, when you go back to the equation, the question is talking about this N2H4, then this one. So we are going to pick the mole ratio between that. So we have N2H4 against H2O2. We need to write the mole ratio for this reaction. So we have N of, that is the mole of N2H4 over the mole of H2O2, which is equal to 1 over 2. So that is the mole ratio. You can also decide to write in this format. That is bringing this one up, then N of N2H4 will come down. That is also accepted. Now let's go through the question. In this question, we have been given 8 moles of H2O2, which simply means that the whole of this can be taken away and replaced by the 8. So we have 8 moles taken over what we have over here because of what we have from the question. The question says how many moles? If you hear moles, it means that you are looking for the actual compound. So there's no formula which is going to be used over here. All right, now what will happen? We just have to insert the number given to us. So we have N of N2H4 over the 8 moles given, which is equal to 1 over 2. That is the ratio, 1 over 2. So now when you multiply 2 times this, then 8 times 1. Finally, we are going to get 4 moles. That is 8 divided by 2. So N of the N2H4 will give us 4 moles. Okay, let's look at more questions on this. So the second part of the question. So how many moles of N2 will be produced from 10 moles of H2O2? So we are now going to write the mole ratio between N2 and that of H2O2. Bear in mind the reaction that was given. So mole ratio between this and that. Let's see what will happen. So that will give us N of N2 all over N of H2O2 is equal to 1 over 2. That is from the mole ratio. So what do? We insert the 10 moles. The question said 10 moles of H2O2. So the 10 moles here will replace what we have over here. So we have N of N2 over 10. So this is what we have. N of N2H4 over 10, which is equal to 1 over 2. So when you divide this, you are going to get N of N2H4, which is equal to 5 moles. How many grams of water will be produced when 3.2 moles of N2H4 react? So this is the last question for the equation that we talked about. That is for the hydrazine equation. So we are to calculate the mass of water that will be used to produce 3.2 moles of N2H4. So what do? We have to write the mole ratio between water and N2H4. So that is what we have over here. So we have N of H2O over N of N2H4, which is equal to 4:1 based on the reaction given. Now, from the question, we are to calculate mass. So here we can put mass over molar mass, or on top here we are going to use mass over molar mass. Now when we come here, we have 3.2 moles. So down here we can replace this N of N2H4 by the 3.2 moles. So this is how it is going to be, or it is going to look like. Mass over molar mass all over the amount that was given in the question. So we have 4/1 here, which is the ratio. So what do? We can solve for the amount from here, then later continue with this mass over molar mass formula, knowing that this amount here has been given. So before we do that, we calculate the molar mass of water. Why am I saying that? Because of the grams here. Anytime you hear mass, it means that you have to calculate the molar mass of the compound or the molecule involved. So molar mass of water give us 18 grams per mole. Now let's look at our equation again. So we have N of water over the 3.2 moles of hydrazine, which is equal to 4/1. Now what do? We just have to multiply. So that will give us 3.2 times 4, and that will give us 12.8 moles of water. But take note, the question didn't say that we should calculate the amount here. The question said we should calculate the grams of water, that is the mass of water. So moving to the next stage, but N is equal to mass over molar mass. So we have to determine mass from this formula. So mass will give us N times molar mass. From the calculation, we had the amount to be 12.8 moles. Molar mass of water is 18. So when you multiply, you are going to get 192 grams. More of these questions will be seen in the next video. That is part 2. Kindly subscribe to this channel. Thank you.